Hello and welcome back to another video. This time it's one that has been pretty often requested, and it is my user interface. There is a slight thing though that you'll probably notice, and it's the fact that this video is, well, it's got black bars. It's in a 21:9 aspect ratio, and that is actually a very key thing that I need to explain to you before we actually get onto the rest of the UI, because I think a lot of people probably think my UI is some magical thing, and that somehow I don't, play with a map. I don't play with, loads and loads of various little things. The truth of the matter is, when I record footage normally, I record a 1080p video, and that's 1920 by 1080, so basically the 16:9 1080p sort of slice in the middle of the screen, which means that all the stuff off to the sides, for an example, where my minimap and things like that are, you never see that in the video, but when I'm playing the game, it's actually there. Of course, there's no point in me actually recording like this normally, because most people don't have the kind of monitor that I have. That's the main reason why my aspect ratio is like this. I use a Dell, it's a 31.5W or something like that. Basically, it's a 34-inch ultra-wide curved monitor with a pixel count of 1340. Not 1340, 3440 by 1440, so it's 1440p, but nice and wide. It's really good for Adobe Premiere Pro and things like that, but for gaming, it just gives this amazing sort of immersive experience. If you're watching this in like a sort of 16:9 monitor, then it's probably everything looks quite small, but on, when I'm actually using it in real life, it's a big 34-inch and it looks really, really nice. So if you are a sort of professional who's using Adobe Premiere or something like that, then I think you can definitely justify getting one of those monitors for your work purposes. Anyway, though, let's talk about the actual UI. So, I'm not going to give a download or anything like that. Two reasons. First of all, I've got no idea how to set that up right. And second, learning how to make a UI is an extremely important skill that's extremely easy, and it's something you really should learn. So, first of all, there's not really a great deal going on here. You can't see that much. Well, if I go into combat, you'll see all the relevant things appear. I actually have not set up scatter right. Whoops, 1 second. So, scatter toggle. There we go, now scatter's up. And essentially this is like my main combat UI, but I will of course have raid frames, which are just to the left normally of my player frame. This is designed for a DPS character though, so I don't really need to look at my raid frames that much. So it can kind of take a bit of less of a priority. It's not like I am a healer or something like that. But anyway, I'm using shadowed unit frames for my actual unit frames. I just, you install shadowed unit frames, type in /SUF, you get all your things here, then you unlock your frames, you can sort of drag them around the place. I'm not going to drag mine because I don't want to, ruin everything. But here's where my raid frames go. Here's my player, here's my target, and here is where the party goes over there to the left. Overall, it works quite well. You can probably do similar things with various other ones. Now, you're probably going to notice that I don't actually have focus on my character's unit frame here. The reason why I've done that is because I've got a terrible habit of my eyes kind of being down around my action bar and there, whereas I'm training myself now, so if I go back into combat, I want to be using my focus bar, which just popped up, the one that I imported into Weak Auras 2, something which I will again show you. Anyway, so setting up shadowed unit frames is super easy. You just, go to the various different modules, so player, pet, target, etc., and set them to whatever way you want. As an example, you'll probably notice when I drop combat, and then don't target anything, mine disappears. That's kind of handy, isn't it? Well, if you go into /SUF, all that is just enabling the combat fader, and other than that, I'm pretty much rocking the default setup here in Shadow Unit Frames. Overall, very, very simple to use. Another thing you might notice is my bartender stuff, or my action bars. These are done with an add-on called Bartender, so download Bartenders, and then /BARTENDER, and boom, Bartender appears. I will close Twitter so it doesn't make any more annoying beeping noises. So, here's Bartender. This may look kind of confusing, but here's bar number 1. Look, now it's gone, and now it's here again. So, there's my various different bars. As you can see, they are set up in a 3x4 grid. That's because I use a Razer Naga, and I just find that to be a convenient thing to do with my Naga, because that's the layout of its thumbpad. So, going through here, you can set up their alpha, which is just their default transparency and various things like that. Overall, this is pretty much like Nothing special going on here. What I do have, which is a bit different though, is this combat conditional. This is what causes my bars to sort of fade differently when I am in combat. So if I go into combat, they will appear at full opacity. And to do that, you just type in that string into use custom conditions. Other than that, then you just click this little lock toggle here, and that will allow you to drag everything around the place. So here's bar 6. This thing is pretty much always hidden, and I just use bar 6 to like throw shit on so I can keybind, and then you can move things to wherever you want, so I'll put that back. Now there's a very handy add-on called Align, which I want to show you. So if I just type in /ALIGN, boom, a big like grid appears on my screen. That's really handy when you're lining up your add-ons and like say trying to get them nice and you know, in the middle, so I'll get rid of that. Now, in terms of other things, let's see, what else should we cover? Yes, my quest objective bar. I hate the default quest objective thing with a passion. I mean, it's just so ugly, it gets in the way, it's no fun for anyone. So, if I click this, it just sort of zooms in and out, which is exactly what you'd expect, and this is using something called Gold Pause UI. So, you have to download Gold Pause UI Core, which is like the core add-on, and then there's a plugin for the quest objective thing. Now, Gold Pause UI is actually a full UI package, but the only thing that I use from it is this quest objective thingy. Now, could I probably find a more lightweight solution for this? Yes, absolutely. On my computer or whatever, like, that doesn't matter. I can probably run 10 instances of WoW at the same time. Not really an issue. So, that's fine. You can hit the toggle lock thingy here. And I've got to say, like, props to Goldpaw. This stuff's all very nice, but then I could, like, move this around if I wanted to. But I don't, because that is actually all fine as of its default. Now then, let's bring up my chat bar. Where are you, chat bar? There. I've got this basically on a show hide macro, and I will provide you with a link to that macro down in the description to this video, but I just don't play with the chat bar on. I pretty much never really need to look at it in my default gameplay for any reason, because like if I'm logging in to do a video, then I don't want the chat bar to be there because I don't want people seeing what people are saying to me, and I don't think it really looks that nice. If I want to re-chat, fine, I can enable it. If I don't, I get rid of it, and then there's just that nice little sort of space in my UI, which is uncluttered, and I think that looks nice and clean, so definitely something that I like. Now, another thing that you've probably noticed is I've kind of got this, like, weird-ass, like, sort of semi-transparent minimal thing going on. This is an add-on called Aurora, and basically you just install Aurora, and it does its own thing, magically. I don't really know how it works, it probably changes some files under the hood, but that's fine, it makes everything nice and clean, which I kind of like. One thing that actually comes to mind is my action bars. So, not action bars, my cast bars, you can see them go off there. Of course, because I'm targeting myself, the one for me and the one for my target both appear. But that's just using Quartz, so /QUARTZ to bring the config for that up. I can like toggle my bar lock, so there's my player one down there, and my target one. Both really simple things. We'll get rid of that. Now, another thing which I have done is I've moved my Minimap down to the bottom right. I'm using Sexy Map, which is a map add-on that many people use. Sexy Map does the job, because you can configure it quite easily. So I just configured it and dragged it down here. Really quite simple. It's also got a handy little... If I just drag this up a little bit... Actually, I should probably just move the... We'll do some live things. I'll move the clock up here, and I'll put that back to where it was. Now, I've got it set up, one of the, like, options here, whatever, like, inside Sexy Map. Where is Sexy Map? Can't find it. Yeah, there we go. One of the options in here is basically to make it so that the clock only appears when you mouse over it, which is a nice little feature. Now, in terms of the minimap buttons, I think they're ugly, I hate them, so I just have this thing here called Minimap button thingy. Again, links to every single add-on in the description for this video. Basically, it's just a little bar which like a little box which collects all of the things. So there's my garrison report as an example, but I'm just going to minimize that because it's not something that I really touch that much anyway. And honestly, that's most of the add-on stuff covered. We'll just type in Bigwigs here. I can't show you any raid footage, but Bigwigs is the raid frames that I use, and I'll just click toggle anchor so that you can see where everything is. So there's my emphasized cooldown, my messages, bars, various things. Oh, I should really move the range thingy back to where it should be, because I don't want it on top of where my target thingy is. So, probably some moving that needs to be done here, but that's fine. Screw it. We'll put it there for now. It'll do fine. In terms of bigwigs, you can pretty much just, like, download this, then hit toggle anchors, move things to where you're happy, and that's really about it. If you're a tank, you might want to go through the options on a boss-by-boss basis to emphasize specific things that you might actually need to know during a fight, but you probably don't need to. In terms of DPS, I just use SCADA as my damage thingy, which, you know, SCADA does the job. It's pretty handy. In terms of my bags, I use Bag On. Bag On's pretty awesome. It just collects them all into one big bag. And you'll probably notice something too. My bag tooltips are all collected in one nice place. And if I mouse over everything else, you can see the tooltips all appear down there on the bottom right. I could show you that even more if I look at my talents and... Oh, okay, it's not working with my talents. I'll have to fix that. But yeah, like if I move over all of my various hotbars there, you can see the various tooltips are appearing in the bottom right. How do I do that? Simple. Move anything. This is a pretty cool add-on. So, for an example, if I was to bring up my my quest log, so we'll open up an objective here, click on a quest, and here's my little quest information thing. By default, you can't really move that. Wow. My throat is rebelling against me. So if I just type in here, quest. There, quest details. I think that's the name of this. And I can then use that to just move this wherever I want. Which is really handy if you, for an example, are using a monitor like mine. So when I'm doing my YouTube videos, I'll just remove that. Like, by default, if I was to open that quest thing, it would be way off to the left of the screen. In such a way that on a 1080p video that's 16:9, you lot couldn't see it. So I had to use Move Anything to sort of nudge it over to the right a little bit. Now, that's something that you could, of course, use to change things like your tooltips. That's what I've done. So, if I just open Move Anything again, I suppose, and then go to search, type in tooltip, and I could just move my tooltips. So if I move this over here, and I I mouse over something, that's where the tooltips will appear. But let's just roughly put them back where they belong. And that is, honestly, pretty much it for the UI. It's a really simple UI, but a lot of that's because I don't really need to track a great deal. Oh, weak auras. I forgot to talk to you about weak auras. That was a bit silly of me, because weak auras is extremely important. Now, you can use weak auras or tell me when. I also need to talk about my little, what do they call those? My nameplates? Yeah, that's what they are. So, if I click on this, boom, weak auras appears. That's kind of snazzy. Now, weak auras is kind of like tell me when on crack. And I haven't set this up myself. This was made by someone else. It's made by a hunter called Clampy on the MMO Champion forums. Now, chances are, if you head to the MMO Champion forum for your class, there will be custom, weak aura things that you can just easily import. And I'll show you how to do that now. So if I just get out of combat, pull my pet back, and wait for these things to go away. While I'm actually waiting, I've got extra CD. I'll cover extra CD when I go back into combat. So I type in /WA, and you don't actually need to know what any of this shit does, which is pretty handy. You just go to New, you go to Import, and whenever you go onto the forums or something like that, you'll get a big, long string of characters, which is your import string. You just paste it in here, then you paste it in there, and I'll just hit done because we're not actually importing anything. You paste it in there, and then you will get all your groups, and you just move it to wherever you want. Why that's not? There we go. And then you'll get this, and you just move it to wherever it's comfortable on your screen. You hit X, and that is it. That is your weak aura setup. Super easy to do. You can just let someone else do the hard work, which I suppose is kind of handy. Now, if I go back into combat, you can see this thing, extra CD, appears. It just tells me the rough internal cooldowns and things like that of my various trinkets. However, we are in a world of RPPM trinkets, which completely suck balls, and just takes a lot of the depth out of DPS gameplay, which kinda sucks, makes that a bit less useful, because you don't actually have that much control anymore. In terms of the nameplates that I'm using, I shall just run up to this thing. I'm using tidy panels. So if I go into interface, or tidy plates even, sorry. I'm using that, and I'm using the grey theme. There's loads of different themes. So there's what graphite looks like. There's neon. There's quarter, whatever that is. I think that, is that like a gemstone? Oh, whatever. No, it's not quartz. I just use grey. I know a lot of people have asked me which one I use. I should probably change the font and, you know, make it so that, like, I know, dots and shit appear on top, but you know what, for now, it pretty much does the job just fine. And that's essentially it for my UI. It's simple, it's clean, it's minimalistic, and if you were to imagine what you're watching on your screen right now, blown up across a sort of a wide, curved monitor, it definitely provides quite a cinematic experience. Certainly when I'm going around the place, leveling or doing anything like that, it's a lot more immersive, it's a nice UI, and another point of it too is I think it makes my videos a bit more watchable. It does my head in when I watch a WoW video and the person's UI is an absolute cluttered mess. You know, you've got random, like, you know, like combat text floating everywhere. That's another thing. I just disabled combat text. And the reason why is I watched one of Preach's videos in which he was talking about him removing combat text, and he said, I never use this information, this is useless information, why is it on my screen? And I just thought, fuck, he's right. By combat text, I don't need you. And that was the end of combat text. Of course, if you are a, you know, if you're a warrior, you're wrecking face, then you'll probably want combat text on so that you can see how much damage your executes do. But other than that, I don't think you'll need it. Why am I looking at my shipyard? Silly me. Bad me. Anyway, let's get rid of the quest tracker thingy. And sort of skip on out of here. Usually, I actually have my SCADA set up so that it is, like, disabled outside of combat. For some reason, I'm doing it manually here, which doesn't really make that much sense. But anyway, that's pretty much all that I can think of for my UI. That's all the main things covered. Like, I'm not using anything special in terms of my, like, you know, the other things. Oh, wait, I'm using Mapster. Mapster's just handy for putting the, like, level brackets onto various different zones, which is handy. And I'm also using, speaking of handy things, I'm using Handy Notes, Draenor Treasures, to tell me where all the locations are of the, just the various things that are scattered around the world. But other than that, that's pretty much my add-ons set up. And you will not need much of a guide to actually set them all up if you just follow roughly what I sort of stepped through in this video. I know it wasn't a walkthrough guide, but honestly, this shit's really easy to set up. This UI here, it took me like half an hour to set up. I think a lot of people get sort of daunted by the idea of making a new UI. Honestly, it doesn't take that much time. Maybe if you're a Mythic Raider, you're going to have to do a lot of work with that, but if you're not doing Mythics and you don't need all the information in the world and all you need is enough to be comfortable with your role, then something like this will do the job just fine. Now, one final note, actually, and I think one thing that maybe turns people off the idea of doing loads of add-on work is installing them and updating them and all of that business. Well, just use the Curse client. It's really simple. You download the Curse You download the Curse client, you make a Curse account, you tell the client where your World of Warcraft folder is, and then you can just install everything using the client. You don't have to mess around with folders or anything like that. It deals with it all for you, and it also deals with updating your add-ons. So you see when a new patch comes out, I never have to deal with add-on trouble. I mean, since, like, Cataclysm, Wrath of the Lich King, just haven't had to deal with that. I keep on seeing people talk about all their add-ons break when a new update to the game happens. Actually, if you're using something like the Curse client, you can just open that up and hit the update button in every add-on, and away you go. It's super easy. So, there you go. Bit of a showcase of my UI. Some rambling. Hope you found it useful. And, yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.